There is something deeply wrong with the way we live today. You feel it when you open your phone. You feel it when you lie in bed at night staring at the ceiling, wondering why you are so tired, so restless, so empty. Even after checking off everything on your to-do list, we live in an age of noise, an age of constant updates, constant judgment, constant measurement. How many likes? How many followers? How much money? How much status? We live in an age where your worth seems to shrink or expand based on numbers that flicker on a screen. And yet, for all our progress, for all our technology, for all our knowledge, we are no freer. We are prisoners of opinions, addicted to control, terrified of loss, and haunted by the idea that we are never enough. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Our ancestors were freer than we are. They had less, but they carried more within. They faced hunger, war, disease, betrayal, death, and yet they developed a resilience, a clarity, and an inner strength that most of us can barely imagine. Why? Because they understood something we have forgotten. They understood that freedom is not the absence of struggle. Freedom is not the presence of comfort. Freedom is the art of mastering yourself, even when everything around you falls apart. And perhaps the most shocking part, they left us a map, a living wisdom carved out of centuries of trial, loss, and triumph. A wisdom called Stoicism. When you hear the word Stoicism, maybe you imagine something cold, detached, or rigid. But nothing could be further from the truth. Stoicism is not about suppressing emotion. It is not about pretending to be above pain, above love, above the world. It is about something far more rebellious. It is about standing in the middle of the storm and discovering that peace was never on the outside. It was always within. Let me tell you why this matters right now, more than ever. We live in a time of unprecedented uncertainty. Careers collapse overnight. Relationships fracture. Markets crash. Diseases sweep through nations. Social tensions ignite. And in the middle of it all, we are told to keep hustling, keep posting, keep smiling. We are told that success will save us, that control will save us, that if we just work harder, optimize more, brand ourselves better, we will finally feel safe. But what if this is the greatest lie of our time? What if chasing control is the very thing making you feel powerless? What if real security does not come from mastering the world, but from mastering your own mind? The ancient Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, Epictetus, the enslaved sage, Seneca, the statesman and poet, lived through times as chaotic, as brutal, and as unpredictable as ours. And yet, they left us writings that still pulse with life today, not because they give us empty hope, but because they confront the raw reality of being human and show us how to rise above it, not by escaping, but by awakening. Here's the first radical idea you need to hear. Most of your suffering comes not from events, but from your attachment to how you think things should be. You suffer because you demand that life obey your will. You suffer because you expect fairness, consistency, permanence, control. But life owes you none of these things. Freedom begins the moment you stop asking the world to guarantee your peace and start claiming the power that was always yours, the power to choose your response. You cannot control what happens. You cannot control what people say. You cannot control success, health, fame, love, or death. But you can control how you meet it all. And that is where Stoicism begins. Stoicism teaches you to narrow your circle of control, not as an act of defeat, but as an act of power. It teaches you to place your focus where it matters, your character, your choices, your inner world. And when you do, something miraculous happens. You stop wasting energy on things that were never yours to command. You stop trying to rearrange the storm, and instead you learn to sail through it. Let me be clear. Stoicism is not about indifference. It is about invincibility. It is not about numbing yourself. It is about awakening to what really matters. In this video, I will guide you through 7 Stoic principles, not as historical curiosities, but as living practices you can use right now, in this world, in this life, in your moments of doubt, pain, anger, and fear. You will learn how to stop wasting your life on illusions, how to prepare your soul before crisis comes, how to build an inner citadel, a place within you that no loss can penetrate, how to see obstacles as teachers, how to live anchored to virtue rather than drifting on the winds of opinion, how to serve something greater than yourself, and why this opens a source of strength most people will never touch. And you will discover, perhaps for the first time, that the path to freedom is not paved with more, better, faster, stronger. It is paved with less, with stillness, with presence, with clarity, with the fierce joy of knowing that no matter what is taken from you, there is something within you that can never be broken. So, if you have been chasing happiness and finding only exhaustion, if you have been clinging to control and feeling only fear, if you have been measuring your worth by what you achieve, who loves you, or how perfect your life looks, stay with me, because what you are about to hear may not only change how you live, it may change how you meet yourself. What if I told you that most of your suffering is optional? What if I told you that the storms in your life are not what break you, but that it is your resistance to the storms that leaves you shattered? Let me explain. From the moment you wake up, you are surrounded by forces you cannot command. The weather, the traffic, the moods of strangers, the opinions of family, the rise and fall of markets, the health of your body, the loyalty of those you love. And yet you carry inside you an invisible script that whispers, "This should not be happening. This is unfair. This is wrong." You spend hours, days, sometimes years, wrestling with what reality has already decided. Why did they leave me? Why did I fail? Why does the world not reward my effort? Why do people not see who I really am? This endless inner war, this constant demand that life be other than it is the single greatest thief of your peace. Epictetus, born a slave, crippled, beaten, and silenced for most of his life, understood something that today's world has almost entirely forgotten. He said, "We are disturbed not by events, but by the view we take of them. It is not loss that destroys us. It is the belief that we were entitled to keep what was never ours. It is not failure that crushes us. It is the belief that success defines our worth. It is not rejection that wounds us. It is the belief that we were owed approval." So here is the first and most essential act of Stoic rebellion: to separate with brutal honesty what is within your control and what is not. And this is where most people get it wrong. We think control means reshaping the outer world. We think control means forcing outcomes, changing people, controlling opinions, bending circumstances. But all of that is illusion. What is truly under your control? Your thoughts, your choices, your attitude, your focus, your inner response. That is all. Everything else, your body, your relationships, your wealth, your reputation, your future, is part of the vast theater of life that moves with or without your consent. And here is the paradox. The more you try to control what is not yours, the weaker you become. The more you tighten your grip, the more life slips through your fingers. But the moment you focus only on what is yours, your mind, your heart, your actions, you become free. You become powerful. You become untouchable. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, commander of legions, understood that even his empire was not his to control. Plague, war, betrayal, loss. They came for him as they come for all of us. But in the privacy of his meditations, he reminded himself daily, "You have power over your mind and not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Ask yourself right now, how much of your energy today was wasted on what you cannot command? How much mental space was hijacked by someone else's opinion, by anxiety over the future, by outrage over the past? And now, imagine reclaiming all of that energy, pouring it into your own discipline, into your own growth, into your own art of living. This is not a recipe for passivity. This is not about resignation. This is about radical empowerment. When you stop demanding that the world bend to your will, you free yourself to rise within the world as it is. You become, as the Stoics taught, like a rock in the sea. The waves crash, the storms rage, and yet you remain steady, because your foundation is not in what passes, but in what you have chosen to be. And this is where most people will misunderstand you. They will think you have stopped caring. They will think you have become cold, detached, aloof. But in truth, you have become invincible. Because when you no longer depend on success, you are free to give your best effort. When you no longer depend on approval, you are free to love more deeply. When you no longer depend on security, you are free to act with courage. Do you see? Freedom is not the absence of limits. Freedom is the art of mastering yourself inside the limits you were given. In the modern world where we are constantly told to hustle harder, to optimize every second, to control every variable, this teaching is nothing short of revolutionary. Imagine waking up tomorrow and focusing only on what is truly yours. Your discipline, your clarity, your character. Imagine how much lighter you would feel. Imagine how much more energy you would have. Imagine how much more presence you could bring to your life. This is the invitation of Stoicism. To stand in the middle of chaos and choose peace. To live among constant change and choose integrity. To move through a world of shifting shadows and choose the one light that never fades, the light within. So, as we continue, I invite you to take a deep breath and ask yourself, what have I been trying to control that was never mine? And what within me have I neglected to claim? Because when you remember where your true power lives, everything changes. Let's move to the next teaching. There is a lie most of us live by without even knowing it. The lie that today will be like yesterday, that tomorrow will honor our plans, that life will unfold in the neat, predictable patterns we have imagined. But life has no contract with you. It has no obligation to fulfill your expectations. It moves according to forces larger, wilder, older than you can grasp, and at any moment, the ground can give way. You know this. Somewhere deep inside you know. The phone call at midnight, the diagnosis you never saw coming, the betrayal you didn't want to believe, the loss you thought you were immune to. The day you wake up and realize you no longer recognize your own life, and yet, we walk through our days as if we were gods, as if we had mastery over time, over people, over fate. We expect smooth roads. We expect cooperation. We expect permanence. And when life defies us, we break, not because life is cruel, but because we were unprepared. Here is where the Stoics offer us a gift so fierce, so countercultural, that it almost feels cruel. They tell us, do not wait for life to break you. Break the illusion first. Practice in your mind the losses you fear. Rehearse in your heart the blows you hope never come. Imagine again and again the stripping away of what you love until you find the place within that cannot be stripped. This is the practice of premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of adversity, a daily exercise not in pessimism, but in freedom. Seneca wrote, "He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand." Let's be clear. The goal is not to live in fear. The goal is to rehearse your courage. When you walk through your days assuming that nothing will go wrong, you live in a fragile bubble. You grow soft, entitled, brittle. You mistake good fortune for good character. You confuse external ease with internal strength. But when you train your mind to expect hardship, to anticipate loss, to prepare for discomfort, you forge something no tragedy can take away. The capacity to meet life as it comes, not as you wish it would be. Think about it. If you woke up every day and said, "Today I will be criticized. Today I will meet disappointment. Today I will face rejection. Today I will encounter people who are selfish, angry, foolish, or cruel. Today I may lose money, lose progress, lose love, lose health." What would change? You would stop taking offense at everything. You would stop acting surprised when life does what life does. You would stop collapsing at every obstacle. And most of all, you would stop wasting your energy pretending you are immune. Marcus Aurelius, emperor, philosopher, soldier, began each day with this mental preparation. He reminded himself, "Today, I will meet with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness. But none of this can harm me. None of this can touch the part of me that chooses how to live." He did not do this to wall himself off from the world. He did it to meet the world with open eyes and an open heart. You see, adversity is not rare. It is not an exception. It is the rule. What is rare is the human being who is ready. In the modern world, we are told to manifest success, to visualize triumph, to think only of positive outcomes. But Stoicism flips this upside down. It tells you, visualize failure, visualize pain, visualize loss, not to attract it but to rob it of its terror. Because what you refuse to face controls you. What you refuse to imagine has the power to destroy you. But what you look at, calmly, clearly, courageously, loses its teeth. Imagine walking into a meeting knowing you may fail, but also knowing that your worth is not at stake. Imagine loving someone knowing they may leave, but loving them fully anyway, without clinging or fear. Imagine waking up knowing you may lose health, money, reputation, but walking into the day with fierce presence because you are anchored to something no loss can touch. This is not detachment. This is power. This is not pessimism. This is clarity. This is not coldness. This is the kind of radical love that only emerges when you stop demanding that life be safe. Epictetus, chained, abused, discarded, said that even Zeus himself could not take away his freedom to choose his response. His body could be imprisoned. His circumstances could be crushed. But his mind, his soul, his choices, those were his. And no one, no god, no emperor, no master, could touch them. What would happen if you lived that way? What would happen if you faced your own losses before they arrived? If you rehearsed your own death, not to be morbid, but to sharpen your joy? If you imagined the loss of your comforts, not to suffer twice, but to taste the depth of your own resilience? The world teaches you to avoid thinking about these things. The world tells you to numb yourself with entertainment, with distraction, with endless consumption, so you don't have to face the truth that nothing lasts. But the Stoics invite you to the opposite. Face it all. Prepare for it all. And by doing so, free yourself from the tyranny of your own illusions. This is why the premeditation of adversity is not dark. It is luminous. It is the practice of seeing life as it is and choosing to love it anyway. Not because it is perfect, but because it is real. Imagine waking up tomorrow and whispering to yourself, "Today I may lose everything, and yet I will live with open hands. I will not clutch, not hoard, not beg life to spare me. I will walk into the fire with grace and discover that I am stronger than I ever believed." This is how you train the soul before the storm. This is how you become ready, not just to survive, but to transform. So let me ask you, what are you clinging to right now? What are you terrified of losing? What would happen if just for a moment you imagined letting it go? Would you collapse? Or would you find, at the bottom of that fear, a freedom so fierce it terrifies you? As we move to the next teaching, hold this in your heart. The soul does not grow by avoiding pain. The soul grows by meeting pain and finding itself larger. There is a resource you carry that is more valuable than gold, more fleeting than fame, more irreplaceable than anything you own. You are spending it right now as you listen to these words. You were spending it last night as you scrolled through your phone. You will spend it tomorrow whether or not you plan to. It is your time, and here is the paradox no one wants to face. You are not in control of how much you have. You only control how you spend it. We live like immortals trapped in mortal bodies. We waste days as if they were infinite. We procrastinate as if we were guaranteed tomorrow. We postpone love, meaning, presence, creativity, rest, until someday arrives, and someday never does. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And here is the truth that cuts deeper the longer you sit with it. Your life is not short. Your life is only as full as your ability to be present. How much of today did you actually live? How many moments did you touch fully, taste completely, inhabit with your whole being? Or did today pass in a blur of tasks, distractions, half-presences, a life divided between the past you cannot change and the future you cannot command? Time is slipping through your hands, not because it is too fast, but because you are not holding it. The Stoics understood time not as a number on a clock, but as the only true wealth you will ever possess. They taught that every moment is an opportunity to practice virtue, to awaken to reality, to act with love, to step into the truth of who you are. But most of us, we live as if we were sleepwalking. We live as if the real life is always 5 minutes away. Just after the next email, just after the next goal, just after the next weekend, just after the next achievement. We tell ourselves stories like, when I make more money, then I will slow down. When I find the right person, then I will open my heart. When I have more time, then I will create, love, rest, reflect, be present. But you will never have more time. You only have now. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself again and again, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Not to scare himself, but to wake up, to remember that every small act, every conversation, every gesture, every breath is part of the great tapestry of your existence, and how you weave it matters. So let me ask you now, how much of your life are you giving away to things that mean nothing to you? How many hours do you surrender to empty distraction, to anxieties you cannot solve, to opinions that do not matter, to scrolling through the lives of people you will never meet? What would it mean to reclaim your time? Not just in theory, but in practice. It would mean saying no to the endless flood of demands that have nothing to do with your purpose, saying no to the addictions that drain your presence, saying no to the illusion that you can multitask your way to fulfillment. It would mean saying yes. Yes to the conversation that matters. Yes to the craft that calls you. Yes to the silence you are afraid of. Yes to the small, ordinary, irreplaceable miracle of this breath, this moment, this heartbeat. You see, your life is not measured in years, but in awareness. Not in length, but in depth. You can live a long life without ever arriving in yourself. You can live a short life that echoes in eternity. The difference is not how many days you get, it is how many days you touch. And here's the secret most people will never tell you. You will never find time for what matters. You must create it. You must defend it. You must choose it again and again against the tide of noise, urgency, and false importance. Time is your only real possession, and at any moment it can be taken, not as punishment, but as the nature of life itself. When you understand this, you stop waiting for life to begin. You stop waiting for permission. You stop waiting for some perfect version of yourself to arrive. And you start. You start now. With the imperfect tools you have, with the limited energy you carry, with the small windows of time you have been given. Because here is the deeper truth the Stoics invite you to grasp. You are already running out of time. And that is not a tragedy. It is a gift. It means you are free to stop pretending, free to stop postponing, free to pour yourself, fully, wildly, awake, into the only moment that has ever belonged to you. This one. Imagine waking up tomorrow and measuring success not by how much you accomplish, but by how present you are in each act. Imagine walking through your day as if each encounter might be your last, not in fear, but in fierce appreciation. Imagine touching your work, your loved ones, your thoughts with the kind of reverence you would offer a dying flame, because every moment is, in a sense, just that. When you live this way, time stops shrinking. It expands. It deepens. It becomes something sacred not because you control it, but because you honor it. This is not easy. It takes practice. It takes vigilance. It takes the humility to realize that most of what clamors for your attention is not worthy of you. And it takes the courage to turn toward what is. The Stoics invite you into a different relationship with time. Not as a tyrant you must obey, not as a thief you must outrun, but as a companion you meet with intention, moment by moment, breath by breath. So I ask you now, not as a challenge but as a blessing, how will you spend what remains? Because whether you have 50 years left, or 50 days, or 50 minutes, the art of living well has never been about quantity. It has always been about presence. There is a question most people never ask themselves. Where do you go when the world collapses? When the relationship ends? when the career dissolves, when the body breaks, when the dream you clung to shatters overnight? Where do you go when everything you thought made you strong is stripped away? Most people have no answer. They run outward, to distraction, to numbing, to blaming, to control. But the Stoics, they point in the opposite direction. They point inward. They tell us that there is within you a place no chaos can reach, a citadel, a fortress, a hidden chamber of the soul, built not of stone, but of practice, clarity, and virtue. Marcus Aurelius called it the inner citadel. He ruled an empire on the edge of collapse. And yet in the quiet of his meditations he returned again and again to this, that no matter what was taken from him, his mind, his character, his capacity to choose his response, were his alone. But here's the part we do not want to hear. This fortress is not given. It is built, brick by brick, moment by moment, in the ordinary invisible struggles of your daily life. Every time you choose discipline over indulgence, you lay a stone. Every time you choose patience over reaction, you lay a stone. Every time you act with courage, even when afraid, you lay a stone. Every time you hold to your principles, even when no one is watching, you lay a stone. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, you become strong. Not in the brittle external way the world celebrates, but in the quiet, steady, unshakable way that endures. Here's the paradox. The world tells you to build your safety outside yourself, to accumulate wealth, to build status, to secure reputation, to control relationships. But all of these can be taken, and the more you depend on them, the more fragile you become. The Stoic builds from the inside out. They understand that true security comes not from the absence of danger, but from the presence of integrity. That the only safe place is not in the world, but in the way you stand inside yourself. Imagine a storm. The winds tear at the trees. The waves batter the shore. But beneath it all there is the earth, solid, unmoved. That is what you are invited to become. To live from a place so centered, so rooted, so deeply anchored, that when life rages around you, you remain clear, not unaffected, not disconnected, but unbroken. This is not about indifference. This is about mastery. When people think of inner strength, they often imagine coldness, detachment, walls. But true fortitude is warm. It is open. It is the kind of strength that can hold suffering without crumbling, that can meet failure without collapse, that can walk through loss without closing the heart. Epictetus, born a slave, maimed, humiliated, taught that the only real power we have is the power to govern our own mind, that everything else, everything, is borrowed. And so, to build the inner fortress is to shift your attention, day by day, away from what you cannot command and toward what you can. Your thoughts, your values, your actions, your presence. It means asking again and again, am I acting from my highest self or from fear? Am I standing in my truth or in my ego? Am I choosing clarity or confusion? Am I anchored in virtue or swept by impulse? And it means doing this not just when it is easy, but especially when it is hard. When you are criticized, hold steady. When you are misunderstood, hold steady. When you are tempted to betray yourself for approval, hold steady. When you are terrified that you will not survive without something or someone, hold steady. This is how you become unshakable, not by eliminating pain, but by becoming someone who can face pain without losing yourself. Seneca wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Your trials are your polishing stone. Your storms are your teachers, and every time you meet them with presence, with dignity, with courage, you are building something no one can take from you. This is why Stoicism is not a philosophy of retreat. It is a philosophy of presence. It is not about hiding from life. It is about meeting life fully as you are and becoming more than you were. The inner fortress is not a place you escape to. It is a place you live from. Imagine waking up tomorrow and knowing deep in your bones that no matter what happens, success or failure, gain or loss, praise or blame, you will not abandon yourself. That is freedom. That is power. That is the kind of strength the world cannot give. and therefore cannot take away. So I ask you now, where are you building your life? On the shifting sands of circumstance, or on the bedrock of your own integrity? The work is daily. The rewards are eternal. What if I told you that the thing you most fear, the thing you most resist, the thing you most desperately wish would go away, is the very thing that was sent to make you whole? What if I told you that the obstacle is not blocking your path? The obstacle is the path. This is one of the most radical and most liberating teachings of Stoicism. It flips everything you thought you knew about hardship, about failure, about loss, about pain. You see, most of us are taught to see obstacles as detours. We believe that once the problem is solved, once the difficulty is removed, once the struggle is overcome, then, and only then, can life begin. But the Stoics tell us, no, life is now. The struggle is not the interruption. The struggle is the teacher. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." Marcus Aurelius said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." And here's why this matters so profoundly. When you treat obstacles as enemies, you become brittle. Every hardship becomes a threat. Every failure becomes a judgment. Every loss becomes a diminishment. But when you treat obstacles as allies, everything transforms. Suddenly, the failure that once defined you becomes the forge of your resilience. The loss that once hollowed you out becomes the place you meet your deepest humanity. The rejection that once humiliated you becomes the doorway to your true worth. The illness, the grief, the shattered dream, the betrayal, the breakdown, all of it becomes raw material for awakening. This is not just a mindset, it is an alchemy. It is the art of turning pain into power, fear into wisdom, loss into freedom. And here is the deeper paradox. The more you resist the obstacle, the more power it has over you. The more you turn toward it, not with resignation, but with curiosity, not with bitterness, but with courage, the more it reveals its hidden gifts. Let me ask you something. What was the hardest thing you have ever gone through? Was it heartbreak, failure, loss, illness, abandonment? And now, years later, who did you become because of it? What strength did you develop? What insight did you gain? What softness, what humility, what depth, what clarity was born from that fire? The Stoics understood that we are not shaped in times of ease. We are shaped in times of trial. Epictetus knew this firsthand. He was born into slavery, beaten so badly that his leg was permanently crippled, and yet, through it all, he became one of the greatest teachers of inner freedom the world has ever known. How? Because he understood that his circumstances were his school, not his prison. He understood that the task of life is not to avoid hardship, but to meet it with such presence, such dignity, such unwavering commitment to growth, that even suffering becomes a servant of the soul. Imagine this. You are walking a path. A boulder blocks your way. You can curse it. You can sit in front of it, paralyzed. You can turn back, defeated. Or you can climb it. You can push against it. You can learn from it. You can use it to build your strength, your patience, your creativity. And when you do, the boulder is no longer the problem. The boulder is the gift. This is what it means to say, the obstacle is the way. In the modern world, we are trained to avoid discomfort. We medicate, distract, escape, numb, complain. We chase convenience, efficiency, ease. But every time we bypass difficulty, we bypass our own transformation. Your heartbreak is not just a wound. It is a doorway to a deeper love. Your failure is not just a defeat. It is an invitation to resilience. Your loss is not just an end. It is a call to presence. Every challenge you meet is a mirror. It shows you where you cling, where you resist, where you have confused your circumstances with your identity. And every time you choose to face the challenge, not perfectly, not flawlessly, but courageously, you become more of who you are meant to be. Let's be clear, this is not about glorifying suffering. This is not about seeking out pain. This is about recognizing that life will give you enough difficulty on its own, and that your job is not to avoid it, but to meet it as an opportunity for awakening. Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal, war, plague, death. And yet, he wrote not with bitterness, but with awe. He reminded himself, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. You cannot control the fact that obstacles arise, but you can control the meaning you give them. And in that meaning you reclaim your freedom." So let me ask you now, what obstacle are you facing today? What challenge do you wish would disappear? What are you calling a problem, when it might just be your greatest portal to growth? What if, just for today, you stopped asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and started asking, "How is this happening for me?" What would shift in your heart, in your mind, in your soul? The Stoics invite you into a fierce, liberating, transformative relationship with life. Not one where you are shielded from the storm, but one where you stand inside it, with your feet on the ground, your eyes open, and your spirit on fire. The obstacle is not in your way. The obstacle is the way. What is the true measure of a life? Pause for a moment. Let the question settle, not just in your mind, but in your chest, in your belly, in the quiet place where truth whispers. What is the measure of your life? Is it the wealth you accumulate? The status you achieve? The applause you gather? The comfort you secure? The legacy you leave behind? For most of us, the answer we live by, even if we do not admit it out loud, is yes. We chase numbers, titles, validation, pleasures, and security as if they are the essence of existence. We fear failure, obscurity, discomfort, and loss as if they are death itself. But the Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, offer a teaching so radical, so countercultural, so explosive, that even today it shatters the assumptions of the modern world. They tell us, none of these things are the true good. Wealth is not good. Health is not good. Fame is not good. Success is not good. Comfort is not good. And poverty is not evil. Illness is not evil. Obscurity is not evil. Failure is not evil. Loss is not evil. These are externals. They are indifferent. They are part of the flow of life, sometimes arriving, sometimes leaving, sometimes uplifting, sometimes humbling. They are not the point. The point is one thing: virtue. Virtue is the only true good. Why? Because it is the only thing that is fully yours. The only thing that no one, no circumstance, no misfortune, no death can ever take away. Your money can vanish. Your body can fail. Your relationships can break. Your reputation can collapse. Your dreams can die. But your character, your justice, your courage, your temperance, your wisdom, your love, these are yours. They are not given by the world, and they are not taken by the world. And here's the truth most people are terrified to face. You can have everything and be nothing. You can win every external prize and be hollow inside. You can be admired, envied, celebrated, and still be at war with your own soul. Or you can have nothing and be everything. You can walk through loss, sickness, failure, rejection, hardship, and if you hold to your integrity, if you hold to your clarity, if you hold to your alignment with what is right, you are free. You are whole. You are untouchable. Seneca said, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere, but to be anchored in virtue, that is to be fully present, fully alive, fully real." Marcus Aurelius, surrounded by war, betrayal, disease, and political pressure, wrote again and again in his journals, "Just that you do the right thing. The rest is of no consequence." Epictetus, a slave beaten and maimed, said, "There is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will." Do you see the through line? The world cannot give you freedom. The world cannot give you peace. The world cannot give you meaning. You can only give it to yourself by aligning your life with virtue. Now, let's break this down. What does it mean to live with virtue? It means that in every action, every choice, every moment, you ask not, "What will make me look good?" What will get me ahead? What will bring me comfort? But what is the just thing to do? What is the wise thing to do? What is the courageous thing to do? What is the loving thing to do? Virtue is not about being perfect. It is not about following rules for the sake of rules. It is not about superiority, performance, or ego. Virtue is about alignment. It is about living in accordance with your highest self, in accordance with nature, in accordance with the deep, timeless patterns that bind us all. Virtue is the art of being fully human. And here is where the real power begins. When you make virtue your compass, everything else becomes lighter. You stop clinging. You stop fearing. You stop playing the exhausting game of appearances. Because you know that as long as you act with justice, as long as you meet life with courage, as long as you hold yourself with discipline, as long as you seek wisdom, you are winning the only game that matters. You are living a life no misfortune can break. Imagine this. Imagine walking into every situation, a negotiation, a relationship, a challenge, a loss, and knowing that no matter the outcome, you will hold to your integrity. Imagine the peace, the strength, the clarity. Imagine waking up every day and saying, "Whatever happens today, I will meet it with virtue." The Stoics knew that this is not easy. It requires practice. It requires vigilance. It requires humility. But they also knew that this is the only path to real freedom. Because if you depend on wealth, you are a slave to fortune. If you depend on health, you are a slave to biology. If you depend on approval, you are a slave to opinion. But if you depend only on yourself, on your character, on your choices, on your alignment, then you are free. And here's something almost no one will tell you. The pursuit of virtue is not cold. It is not rigid. It is not joyless. It is the most alive, passionate, joyful way to live. Because it brings you into intimacy with life. It awakens you to the present moment. It connects you to the great web of being. It reveals to you your own depths and your kinship with every soul that has ever walked this earth. So let me ask you now, as gently and fiercely as I can, where are you compromising your virtue? Where are you betraying yourself for comfort, for success, for belonging, for survival? What would it look like to reclaim your compass? Not all at once. Not perfectly, but moment by moment. Choice by choice. What would it look like to live as if virtue were the only thing that mattered? Because here is the truth, waiting quietly beneath all your striving. It is. There is a myth we are fed from the moment we open our eyes to the world. The myth of separation. The myth that we are isolated beings, moving through life in private battles, chasing personal success, pursuing individual happiness, answerable only to our own desires. We are told to focus on self-improvement, self-optimization, self-actualization, as if the highest purpose of a human life is to become a perfect island. But the Stoics, those ancient, fierce, luminous souls, offer us a truth that cuts through this illusion. You are not an island. You are part of a whole. You are a thread in a vast tapestry, woven through time, through space, through history, through spirit. You belong to the human family, to the web of life, to the universe itself, and your flourishing is not separate from the flourishing of the whole. Your freedom is not separate from the freedom of others. Your awakening is not separate from the awakening of the world. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of the known world with the weight of an empire on his shoulders, wrote not about conquest, not about domination, not about legacy, but about service. He reminded himself, "What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee." He saw that every human life is shaped, sustained, and defined by relationship. You are shaped by the hands that raised you, by the minds that taught you, by the bodies that built the world you walk through, by the souls that suffer and sing and struggle alongside you. And you, in turn, shape the world for others. Your presence ripples outward. Your actions echo beyond you. Your choices leave marks on the hearts, minds, and futures of others in ways you will never fully see. This is why virtue is not private. It is public. It is not about personal purity. It is about collective harmony. The Stoics understood that a good life is not just about inner peace. It is about outer contribution, not as performance, not as sacrifice, but as the natural flowering of a well-ordered soul. When you are rooted in justice, you cannot help but care for the vulnerable. When you are anchored in wisdom, you cannot help but teach, guide, uplift. When you are grounded in courage, you cannot help but stand for truth. When you are centered in love, you cannot help but serve. But here's the paradox. The modern world tells you that service is depletion, that giving diminishes you, that to care is to lose power. The Stoics tell you the opposite. To live only for yourself is to shrink. To live only for yourself is to starve your soul. But to live for the common good, to see your life as part of something larger, to offer your strength, your gifts, your presence to the weaving of the whole, this is where true power is born. Seneca wrote, "No one can live happily who has regard for himself alone," and transforms everything into a question of his own utility. Happiness, he understood, is not a private possession. It is a shared condition. Let me ask you now, who benefits from your growth? If you become more patient, who around you is touched by that softness? If you become more courageous, who is strengthened by your example? If you become more generous, who is lifted by your open hand? If you become more awake, who finds permission to awaken beside you? You see, the path of virtue is not a staircase to some solitary summit. It is a widening circle, a wave that moves outward, a flame that lights other flames. And this is why your growth matters, not just for you, but for the world. Every time you choose integrity over convenience, you heal something in the collective. Every time you choose presence over distraction, you heal something in the collective. Every time you choose love over fear, you heal something in the collective. You're not here to perfect yourself in isolation. You are here to become a living thread of wisdom, a living vessel of truth, a living instrument of the great symphony of life. And here's the beautiful twist. When you stop living only for yourself, you find yourself. When you stop clinging to your little story, you open into the great story. When you give yourself to the whole gives itself back to you. Imagine a community where everyone lived this way, where leaders acted not from ego but from service, where friends showed up not to consume each other, but to uplift each other, where strangers met not with suspicion, but with dignity, where each of us, in our small, imperfect ways, tended to the common good. This is not a utopian dream. This is the invitation hidden in every moment. You can walk through life as a taker or as a giver. You can hoard or you can serve. You can isolate or you can weave. And here's the quiet secret at the heart of it all. Service is not a burden. It is a liberation. When you remember that you are part of something larger, you become vast. When you align your life with the good of the whole, you step into a current of meaning that sweeps you beyond fear, beyond lack, beyond death. You become a participant in the dance of the cosmos. So let me ask you gently but clearly, where are you holding back your gifts? Where are you withholding your presence? Where are you imagining that your life does not matter? And what would it mean today to step forward, to offer yourself, imperfect and whole, to the weaving of the world? Because this, the Stoics tell us, is where true fulfillment lies. Not in the mirror, not in the bank, not in the accolades, but in the quiet, persistent work of making the world just a little more whole because you were here. Take a deep breath. No, really. Pause. Feel it. The inhale, the exhale. Notice how your chest rises, how the air touches the back of your throat, how your body holds you up without you asking. Notice this moment. This precise moment, the only one you have ever truly touched. This, right here, is where the journey begins. We have walked through the ancient halls of Stoic wisdom, stood beside Marcus Aurelius in the cold of war, sat at the feet of Seneca in the silence of exile, listened to Epictetus, shackled but unbroken, and we have seen one thing again and again. The outer world shifts, it crumbles, it betrays, it dazzles and deceives. But the inner world, the world you build with your own hands, with your own choices, with your own devotion to what is just, courageous, wise, and loving, that is yours. And it is from there that all true change flows. So the question is no longer, How do I understand Stoicism? The question is, how do I live it? Let me tell you something you may not want to hear. You will not transform your life overnight. You will not become unshakable because you watched one video, read one book, or listened to one voice. You will become unshakable because you chose, again and again, to show up in the smallest ways. When you are stuck in traffic and you choose patience, when you are tempted to speak in anger and you choose silence and/or truth, when you are drowning in fear and you choose the next right step, no matter how small, when you are exhausted by the noise of the world and you choose to come home to yourself. Stoicism is not a costume you put on. It is not a mask of indifference. It is a quiet fire you tend within, so that when the winds of life rage, you do not disappear. And you know what? You will forget. You will fall. You will catch yourself clinging, grasping, reacting, panicking, betraying your own compass, and then you will remember, and you will return. Because that is the practice, not perfection. Return. Return to what matters. Return to the present. Return to your values. Return to the still point within you that no circumstance can touch. This is how a Stoic is forged. Not in grand gestures, but in the invisible, humble, relentless work of alignment. And here's the paradox. The more you practice this, the less you live in isolation. You begin to see your growth matters not just for you, but for everyone you touch. Your patience ripples into your family. Your courage ripples into your work. Your clarity ripples into your friendships. Your love ripples into the world. We are all connected. We rise together, or we fall apart. The Stoics understood that we are citizens not just of a city, not just of a country, but of the world, of the cosmos. You are not here to perfect yourself for yourself. You are here to become a presence, a force, a vessel for something larger. A tiny light in a vast night that quietly keeps burning. So how do you begin? You begin now, with this breath, with this day, with this single ordinary sacred moment you are living right now. Not by reshaping your entire life overnight, not by mastering every practice, but by choosing one thing, one small thing, and doing it with intention. Tomorrow, you do it again, and again, and again. You fall, you rise, you remember, you return, and slowly, without fanfare, you become who you are meant to be. And as you do not walk alone. You walk with a lineage that stretches across centuries. You walk with Marcus, with Seneca, with Epictetus, with all those who have sought to live not just long but well. You walk with us, with this community, this channel, this gathering of souls who are done pretending, done performing, done postponing the real work of awakening. So here is my invitation to you. If this touched you, if something in your heart stirred as you listened, do not let it fade. Stay with this journey. Watch the other videos in this series. Explore the deep dives we offer into ancient wisdom, into timeless philosophy, into the art of living awake, clear, and free. Subscribe to this channel, not for numbers, but so you can stay connected to a well of wisdom that can feed you for a lifetime. Like this video, not for me, but to help carry this message to others who are still searching, still struggling, still waiting to remember what they already know. Share this with someone you love, someone you see wrestling with the same questions, someone whose heart is ready for this path. Join us, not as a passive listener, but as an active traveler, because this is not entertainment. This is a path, and you are part of it now. Thank you for walking this far. Thank you for bringing your presence. Thank you for being willing to meet yourself in the places that matter. We are only just beginning. Let's keep going.